if you get a bad roommate, that could be the end of it, right? That's the horror story.
Yeah. I guess the last question I have for you, and I'm really interested in this answer because you have that guest perspective, but you have a guest perspective that's also talked to, I don't even know how many crew at this point, hundreds, thousands, and had really in-depth, deep conversations. So, and a lot of the people on my channel, they're people who are very interested in working on cruise ships, but they either don't know how or they're not really sure if it's for them. So my question to you is working on cruise ships worth it? And especially right now?
That's a real good question, because again, it's one of those things, just like what's the best cruise ship, right? It kind of depends on the person. As you know, depending on your job can be very mundane and very close quarters, or if you're more with the public, it's a lot more fun. But when you deal with the public, you deal with the good and you deal with the bad at the same time, right? But
sounds like YouTube.
The people I know that have done this and done it for quite a while, they love it because, things are paid for. They get to travel around the world. Sometimes they make more money because they're coming from a different country that they would never make the money they do on the cruise ships, even though it's like not what you would make in North America, say. But the younger you are and you're doing it, the easier it is because you make such lifelong friends sometimes. You meet your partner on cruise ships, right? As you can attest to. But yeah, like you meet so many great people, and even the customers, people. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Like customers and clients on the ship that travel regularly and love the same ship and end up sailing with the same crew over and over again. Some of them are fantastic, right? I know people who will bring gifts and give it to different people on the cruise ship because they know they're going to be working on their cruise ship, or they've stayed in touch. I have like 35 different cruise directors who are on my Instagram, even though I hardly do Instagram, but we'll talk every once in a while. And see how are things going, when are you getting back to a ship and all this. It's just fun to do. But if you're looking for it as a career, it's definitely a career. It's definitely travel. You do get to see a lot of the world depending on which line you're with. And it can be a lot of fun, but just know that you're going to be working long hours and you're going to be close quarters a lot of the time with some people. And if you're okay with that, if you get a bad roommate, that could be the end of it, right? That's the horror story. Yeah. But if you have a great roommate, I know more people who get along great with their roommates than people who've had the bad roommate, because everyone's in the same boat, right? So,
literally.
So what would you think? Would you say it's worth it? You've been on it. Are you going to go back? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm in a different situation now. Now that I'm married and I've got a job here on land, I'm looking to start a family. Not to say that it can't be done, but it's not the type of challenge that I want to put myself into in terms of having a family and trying to continue to build on my life goals. It makes more sense for me on land. But in terms of doing it in general, it's so worth it. And I think it's something that is not necessarily for everybody, but if somebody's interested, I definitely think they should at least try it. It's not like you can't try it out and then a month and a half you're like, this really isn't for me, I'm absolutely hating it. And then they're going to say, well, you're stuck here. Sorry, you got to stick out your contract. No, they'll send you home.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, you got to pay for the flight, but
it's worth it at that point if you really want to go home. But they're not going to keep a disgruntled employee on board for the sake of having a body. They'd rather get rid of it because they don't want that experience around the clients. Right?
Exactly. So, Plus, they've got so many different people applying. I get a lot of questions where people are like, how do I apply? And I've been waiting for like 3 months and after applying. And one thing I have to remind a lot of people is that when you apply for a job in your city, how many people do you think you're competing against? Several hundred, several thousand, maybe. Well, cruise lines, that's an international job. So how many people do you now think you're competing with? So if you just like the cruise line has almost literally all the people in the world as their pool of employees. So like if you leave, they're not going to be heartbroken about it. I mean, they may be, but at the same time, sure, do you, and we'll get somebody else. Yeah. And as long as you're happy, because just like you mentioned, they don't want to keep somebody on board who's just not happy. Yeah. Because there is also the case of not to get too dark here, but crew suicide, where they end up not knowing how to deal with it on a cruise ship, and they take their own life, or they do something drastic, and that's partly another reason why I have my channel as well. Again, the tagline is to raise awareness of the opportunity of working on cruise ships and help new and existing crew have an enjoyable experience, because there's a lot of people who go on cruise ships and they go in blind. They don't know what the heck they're jumping into, and then 3 months down the line, they were like, I didn't know I was going to be in a cabin that's smaller than my car, sharing it with somebody, with this crazy team, and with I didn't know I was going to be dealing with guests this close, and the pay was going to be, well, no, they should have known the pay, but you get where I'm going with this. Like, they had no idea, and then all of a sudden they're just in this situation, and some people just don't know how to handle it. But regardless, again, not for everybody, but everyone should do it.
Yeah. Well, I say this all the time, right? No matter what you're about to do, what you're going to try and do, even if you want to go on a cruise, even Google, research, do your research, right? Yes. When I started YouTube, I knew nothing about recording and going on the channel and YouTube algorithms and all that. It's all self-taught. It's all trial and error. Do your research. Don't take one person's word for it. Find out as many different opinions as you can, and then make your decision.
Absolutely.
You're a lot less likely to be disappointed that way.
I'm a huge advocate of doing research and putting in that sweat equity, because you really do eliminate a lot of the mistakes that you could have when farther along down the line. Again, going back to some of the people who reach out to me, my immediate go-to answer, most of the time I don't even need to read their comment. It's really just like, hey, I'm interested in working on cruise ships, and then like 80% more text. And I think my go-to is, well, what cruise ship do you want to work on? Have you tried going onto, for example, royalcaribbean.com/careers and looking to see what they have available? And then most times even look at that, let alone look at all the different options of cruise ships and what they offer, and because there's different pay too in terms of crew life.
Oh yeah, it can be a huge difference. Yeah. But to this day, if somebody offered me a cruise director job with Princess, I think I'd jump at it.
Hey. Well, I'll hit up my contacts at Princess, and we'll see what's going on there.
Me too. I think I'm selling out this ship and I'm selling out that ship. How about giving me a job?
There we go. But Don, I really want to thank you for spending your time here and providing some entertainment and some insight. And I'd love to have you back on. Maybe sometime down the line after COVID kind of goes away, and once we see how things are going, and when you're back on cruise ships. Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
How about we get together again when they start launching cruise ships, and I'm getting ready to go on one, and we can talk about getting prepared for going back on a cruise ship.
That would be amazing.